let's get back into the questions. I mentioned before the break that we have one that involves a death. So this is from Kelly. And Kelly's question is, my grandmother was broadsided by a lady who admitted to running a stop sign. One friend was killed instantly, and my grandmother died later. What legal rights do we have? Lorelei, where should Kelly's family start?
So, Kelly, first of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. I too recently lost somebody in a similar accident, if you will, and there's a lot of things that have to be done at this stage. Not only does it sound like you have 2 wrongful death actions on your hands, but you also have a whole bunch of possible trust and estate issues, probate, wills, all sorts of stuff that you might have to deal with. And so even though liability has been admitted, I would still suggest you reach out to an attorney. I would suggest you get an attorney that knows about personal injury law, but that also knows about chancery work. These things are done in 2 different courts, and not all attorneys are the same. I know Harry does both personal injury and estate matters and chancery work. And so he certainly knows how to handle a situation like this.
Well, one of the things you want your attorney to do from the outset is they want to look into the insurance policies, insurance limits that are involved, because in order to make that claim and recover all the damages that you can under a wrongful death case, you want to make sure, how much you're dealing with. I've seen catastrophic cases, including deaths, where, there's a limited amount of liability insurance and there's no uninsured motorist coverage. And even though a death was involved, there's a limited amount of insurance money that you can get to. But with respect to, if the person is deceased, they may have a will. If they don't have a will, you need to be careful whether or not you open in the state, because then creditors become involved and can attach some of the proceeds of the wrongful death settlement. Normally, a wrongful death will pass outside of the state. And so if you can do that under all circumstances, I would recommend that. It's a lot cleaner, a lot easier, but you definitely want to check out the insurance limits, and then you want to make sure that the proper people, there's an heirship involved. You want to make sure that you determine who the proper heirs are and the people who are going to recover under the wrongful death case.
And Harry, here's the question I want to know, and a lot of people do too. Who determines who the proper people are? I mean, can a second cousin just say, I want some too, because she was my grandmother? I mean, how deep does it go? Well,
that's a good question. It's statutory. Normally when someone passes, you look to a spouse or children. Mm-hmm. And then depending on whether or not the spouse is alive and or the children are alive, I mean, it can go down quite a bit. I mean, you could have a child of a person and they themselves have children, and then it's how they split that one person's recovery out of the pie. It could get complicated. But it's statutory, and you can't just raise and say I was a favorite nephew or I was the favorite niece, but there's others before you. It's by statute.
It can get messy. I've been a part of some of those conversations, or at least I've been in the room with some of those conversations.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really interesting who shows up when things happen.